Good morning, Unity Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Dr. Gary, and I'm here with our co-minister, Reverend Dr. Jane, and we welcome you to our online live streaming service, where our mission is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. What a great purpose to have. We like to begin our worship service each time by sharing our opening affirmation. I'm going to speak it once, and hopefully this remote will work. It's not working right now. Hang on 1 second. Pause for technical difficulties. Okay, it's not working.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there. Something happened.
Something happened. Hang on a second.
Well, why don't we just say
Oh,
it
here
together?
we go. No, we got it.
Okay.
I mean, the whole rest of the program hinges upon this technology working, right? Okay, that's why we know nothing and no one is against us, not even our technology. All right, our opening affirmation, I'll say it once and invite you all to share it with us together. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good. Let's say that together. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good. All right, so we got some things going on today, don't we? So we want to remind everyone that this afternoon at 3 p.m. we will be conducting our first Zoom online town hall meeting, and so that's going to be an event to really participate in, making history. And our Board of Trustees is going to welcome you into our conversation about our transition plan, and so you won't want to miss the opportunity to participate in that conversation and find out everything that we know already about what's in store for our near future. And so do avail yourself of that. So what's going to happen next is, unbeknownst to Jane, she received news the last springtime that she was going to be this year's recipient at our annual Unity People's Convention of the prestigious Light of God Expressing Award. And so she has received this award, and over the weekend there was a virtual ceremony that honored all the recipients of Unity Worldwide. Every year they honor 4 people for the Light of God Expressing Award, the Charles Fillmore Award, the Myrtle Fillmore Award, and the Ruth M. Mosley Award. And we actually have 4 people now in our ministry that have received these awards. Reverend Jackie has received also the Light of God Expressing Award, now Jane also, and Reverend David McClure received the Charles Fillmore Award as well. And I got the Girl Award, the Myrtle Fillmore Award. Anyway, all right, so here's Jane's what they did for Jane in honor of her. So hope you enjoy it.
The first award that we will be giving this evening is the Light of God Expressing Award. It is given to an individual who has made an ongoing and lasting contribution beneficial to the entire Unity movement. The individual's life exemplifies qualities that are an inspiration and a model to the entire Unity movement. The individual's contributions as were made in one or more of the following areas: healing, teaching, speaking, writing, leadership, and organizational skills, interpersonal relationships, or the arts. And the winner of the 2020 Light of God Expressing Award is Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons. Jane is an ordained Unity minister and holds a doctorate degree in theology from Holos University. Since her ordination in 1999, Jane has ministered in 4 Unity churches in Canada and the U.S., as well as serving as the teen ministry coordinator for Unity Worldwide Ministries and adjunct faculty for Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. With a passion for heart-centered transformation, Jane is committed to helping bring forth a kinder, more compassionate world. She is the author of You Can't Sleep Through Your Awakening, Eye of the Storm for Teens, and co-author of Who Have You Come Here to Be? Jane currently serves at Unity Spiritual Center, Spokane, Washington, implementing mission-centric ministry with her husband and co-minister, Gary Simmons.
On June 10th of this year, the ministerial class of 1999 celebrated 21 years of being ordained. And I feel very blessed to have been a part of that wonderful class. We took on the tagline of moving mountains, and we've been doing so in our own unique ways ever since. And over these 21 years, there have been many changes. Some of my classmates have died, some have retired or moved into other vocations. Many are doing alternative ministry of some kind. And as I reflected on that, I found myself thinking about all of our various journeys since ordination. And when I look back on my own experience, I was both moved and greatly inspired by all of the twists and the turns and the adventures and the unexpected gifts and the growth that ministry has provided throughout these years. I thought of all the people, the friends, the congregants, the colleagues that I have been able to meet and get to know. My beloved husband, Gary, being one of them. Well, Gary and I are both retiring from pulpit ministry in December of this year on my 67th birthday. But that doesn't mean I'm retiring from ministry. Far, far from it. I will still be participating in all of the areas that have been such a passion for me over these years. Teaching, writing, working in the prisons, leading workshops and training, speaking on occasion. And so I'm about to embark on a new iteration of this amazing adventure called ministry. And as I stand on the threshold of the momentous shift that is on the horizon, I am so very humbled and honored to receive this award. And I have to confess that when I read the letter telling me that I was receiving it, after recovering from the shock, the first question in my mind was, why? Why me? Why am I receiving this award? What's the reason for that? And I don't say this to put myself down or to have some sort of false humility. I was genuinely perplexed. And I actually had to ask to see the criteria for choosing someone in order to help me figure it out. So imagine my surprise when I looked at the list and I saw on that list were most of the things that I've just mentioned as part of my ministry that I am passionate about. Teaching classes. I love teaching, and I will continue teaching as long as I can, both online and when we can meet again in person. Writing, another great love of mine is writing books, writing curriculum, lesson plans. I love it. Then healing, doing healing work in the prisons. And if I could pinpoint something that is my ultimate passion in ministry, without a doubt, hands down, it would be prison work. Followed pretty closely by facilitating interpersonal, relational development through workshops and trainings, such as the Q process and training in mission-centric ministry, those kind of things. So who knew that you could win an award for doing things that you absolutely love doing? Imagine. So thank you for honoring me with this award. It means more to me than you might guess. And here's why. The biggest gift that comes for me from receiving this is realizing that as I retire, I can continue in work that matters. My ministry will change in how it looks, but it will continue. And that message could not have come to me at a better time than within the last 6 months of pulpit ministry. In a time filled with such uncertainty, thank you for helping me to see that. And so I miss all of you. I'm sad that I won't get to see you in person this year. But just know that I am beyond grateful and thrilled for the great honor and privilege of receiving the Light of God Expressing Award. Thank you.
That's so awesome. We're so blessed to have you honored in this way.
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting, and when you said unbeknownst to me, it was like, yeah, I didn't know this was coming today, so.
Yeah, she didn't know this movie was coming today either.
No, so thank you.
All right. So Caleb, what do we have on tap for our song next?
Well, we're going to have Sean and Tanya Wright live streaming directly from their home, which they did the last couple of weeks, and it's been a very nice treat. So without further ado, I think we're going to switch over to
There they are.
Sean and Tanya live
All right.
from home.
The magic of technology. All right, good to see you guys. We're waving to you. So Caleb, what do we have on tap for our song next?
Oh, there's a delay.
There's a delay.
All right, good morning, everybody. Hey, congratulations. Congratulations, Reverend Jane. We are really proud of you for getting the award this morning. We have this very special song called "We Are the Voice," and I wrote this song 5 years ago, and in the passing of John Lewis this week, I was reminded of Martin Luther King. Good morning, everybody. Hey, congratulations. Hang on. I was reminded of Martin Luther King. He said, "Be an instrument of peace," and it made me remember the lyrics to the song that I'd written. It was based on St. Francis of Assisi, "We are the voice, make me an instrument of thy peace." And here, Reverend Jane, with that beautiful award that you won this morning, is there any more appropriate words? You are an instrument of peace. And we hope you enjoyed this song. God, make me an instrument of thy peace. Let music play from my soul for others to hear, a love song that's free. God, hear me now in this hour. I feel love shelters me, wrapping its arms around my soul for others to see. God, let us be your voice, singing in love, singing in joy. God, let all mankind rejoice, rejoice in this song, this joyful noise of peace. And we are the voice of God that sings to your soul. We are the songs of the ages, songs like a rock, more precious than gold. And God, let us be your voice, singing in love, singing in joy. God, let all mankind rejoice, rejoice in this song, this joyful noise of peace. And we are the voice voice of God that sings to your soul. And we are the songs of the ages, songs like a rock, more precious than gold.
Wow, beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean and Tani, for that wonderful way for us to enter into our meditative experience this morning. And so as we prepare for meditation, let us just simply rest in this awareness that we are the voice. That a part of what we do to really align ourselves with that one presence and one power that is seeking to live and express itself through us is to recognize our own capacity, our own power, to be the voice, to be able to speak to our soul, and to find that voice that is able to tell us how special and important, how worthy, how blessed we are, and to have that voice come from our inmost self. This is the gift that we need to seek and experience in this moment. And so as we take time now to abide in this awareness, to rest in the sure and certain knowing that we are a part of an activity of Spirit of God that right now is seeking to fulfill itself in no uncertain terms in each one of our lives. Imagine the whole Spirit of God right now, in this moment, is seeking to fulfill itself through each one of us, through our hopes and dreams, through our cares, through our capacity to transcend our own self-imposed limitations. This is what we're here to enact, to experience, to activate. Our capacity to be present but yet not diminished. Our ability to know without being daunted or thwarted. A sense that all things ultimately are working together for good. To be able to take time to release ourselves from the entanglements of what reinforces a sense of separation or worry or concern or fear. It's time now to rest in the awareness of our oneness with God, of our connection to all of life. It's time now to know that truth without exception. To welcome that voice that seeks to call us by name, beckoning us to wake up, to see what our busyness cannot reveal, to know in our heart of hearts what our head cannot convey. To be in such a divine contentment that others are inspired and even made whole. Let us enter more completely, at least in these moments, with no holding or resisting, allowing that voice of God to speak to us, so that we hear in our own voice, I am worthy, I am whole, I matter, I am the one. And we can rest and rejoice in the awareness that our purpose of being the one comes with it the blessing that none of us are the one all by ourselves. We're all in this together. To choose who we will be with what we are having. To use the very circumstances of our life to bring us into greater expression of our wholeness and worth. And as we feel into this awareness of presence, of purpose, of our own capacity to make a difference, we are aware that there is a world that is in need of healing, of peace, of understanding, compassion, of love. And so we feel into those renewing feelings, emotions that bring us into the felt experience of expansion, of possibility, even adventure. And as we recognize the source of this awareness of oneness, of connection, is our heart, we are never separate or apart from our capacity to feel into the reality of being, of presence. And then simply to allow ourselves to be instruments of that presence, of that peace. And now let us feel a connection to all those who are part of our spiritual community. Our spiritual family members and friends who we can connect up and feel a part of this great turning that is happening. We're all in this together. And as we intentionally seek to feel our connection to each other, we draw upon that field of infinite possibilities that includes each one of us. And together we're carried to a place of capacity that matters in a world that is so divided. And so as we feel our oneness with each other, we can feel a connection to all those who are in this moment, connecting to Source, connecting to the presence. Millions of souls beyond our unity family, right now hungering and thirsting for peace on earth and goodwill towards all of life. This is what we're a part of. This is why we matter. This is what's calling us now. And so let us deepen now in this awareness by entering into the silence for a few moments, beyond the words, beyond the ideas, just allowing the feeling of love and presence and wholeness and connection to carry us back home. Breathe in and release. Breathe in and release. Blessed Spirit, we release ourselves now into your care and keeping. We give thanks that all things are working together for good, and that we are the one unto our life. And for this we are grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you. Wow. A beautiful morning. We've already had such an amazing experience this morning between the music and the meditation, and I just am presencing my gratitude for all of that. So, the wonderful Unity poet, James Dillett Freeman, tells the story about a young boy who looked through the plain windows in his home every morning, and he noticed that all the windows across the valley, that all the windows in those houses seemed to be glowing as if they were gold. And one day, he goes across the valley, and when he gets there, he discovers that the windows in those houses are as plain and ordinary as the windows of his own. However, he looks back at his neighborhood, and he's surprised to find that those windows are glowing as if they are gold. And it's a great illustration of how the gold that we may be seeking outside of ourselves in life is right here in our own backyard. We carry it with us. And this idea of finding the gold, finding hidden treasure in our own backyard, it's a theme that's found in many spiritual traditions and cultural stories around the world. Christian parables and Buddhist and Hindu stories and tales from the Hasidic Judaism and Sufism. They all have their version of that story. But the feel-good lure and mystery of discovering hidden treasure has a catch to it. There's some sweat equity involved. In fact, we need to get our shovel and start to dig. We have to do the work for that. Because this treasure lies dormant unless it is excavated. And so my talk title this morning is Mining the Hidden Gold. And so I'm going to invite us all to go on an exploration of how to go about that. So let's get our metaphorical shovels ready. You know, I think a lot about cultural transformation, especially in these times. And not only thinking about the transformation, but always looking for what's my part in helping to bring it forth, to bring forth a new paradigm of living. What's mine to do? And recently I read something that was written by the author of A Wrinkle in Time, Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote this. She wrote that she said that she has much more resonance with the writings of the Cappadocian fathers from the 4th century than she does of more contemporary mid-20th century theologians such as Paul Tillich, who's there on the screen. But her reasoning might surprise you. She feels much more culturally aligned with those early Christian writers because they were living at the time of the fall of Rome. Civilization was changing radically. People were no longer used to living in luxury. The aqueducts and the heating systems were breaking down. The roads were no longer being kept up. And the writings from that time reflect the end of an empire. So I get her point. Now, she wrote these words in 2001, but it got me thinking about our current culture's seeming demise, and I thought about that. I thought that her words had an almost prophetic ring to them, and it made me wonder how much we have learned in the ensuing centuries or not learned. And I imagined Nero fiddling while Rome burns, and I considered that I might be doing a 21st century version of that, fiddling while Rome burns. And so I looked up some of the writings of the Cappadocian Fathers, and I found this. And so let us be glad and bear with patience everything the world throws at us, secure in the knowledge that it is then that we are most in the mind of God. Now, the way I might say that is that whatever is arising in our life, know that we have within us all that we need to meet it, and not only to meet it, but to transform it. And here's why. We are in the presence of the divine right now and always. We're surrounded and enfolded in the one life, and we are securely held in the heart of the infinite, in the power of God. And so after reading that quote, I found myself with a sort of a renewed sense of looking at activating that power in order to take the kinds of actions that can help to midwife a new paradigm of living into emergence while hospicing what is needing to be released, what is ready to be released. And what I discovered was this: the kind of work that needs to be done can also help me to find the gold in my backyard. Their two are related. You may have read in this week's e-news about Wabi-Sabi. It's an ancient Japanese practice which has as its main precept an acceptance of day-to-day life's imperfections and impermanence. And this practice actually becomes an art form when it goes beyond acceptance to actually finding the immense value and beauty in the midst of the seeming flaws and limitations that arise within our physical existence. In essence, it's about learning to mine the hidden treasure contained within the imperfection. And one could reasonably argue that we appear to be in the midst of a great opportunity for a crash course on Wabi-Sabi. With a world currently immersed in a raging pandemic, along with daily doses of racial injustice, political unrest, blatant corruption, escalating violence, and divisiveness, just thrown in for good measure. There's no shortage of news headlines or Twitter feeds or Facebook posts to choose from to put this practice to the test. And we have a veritable smorgasbord of possibility to choose from in order to practice this art. And the work begins with willingness. A sense of willingness, a willingness to see it differently. Words of wisdom from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. For things to reveal themselves, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them. Very wise words. We have to see them from a different perspective. And I have to regularly check my internal reactivity to the news, to the latest news, and to be willing to view it from a different observation point. And that takes willingness. Willingness to look within. Willingness to stay present to whatever is arising, regardless of the possible discomfort. Not only to be present to it, but to stay connected with the situation with compassion and curiosity. And then to look for whatever the gift may be for me as I learn from it. See? This is how the Q process actually works. And I have to say, to be clear, this is a revolutionary view of the world. I certainly was never taught this when I was younger, how to find value in life's imperfections and imperfect moments, and even more radically, to look within and find the value rather than trying to fix what's out there. Seems very counterintuitive to my typical reaction. But to borrow a phrase from the writer Tamakives, if I am committed to being a contribution rather than a casualty of whatever is arising, then that's what the work is. Committed to being a contribution rather than a casualty. So it's an inner revolution. And the work becomes embodying the ideal or the principle that I wish to see expressed in the world. Principles are not meant to only be studied. They're meant to be lived, to be expressed, to be embodied. And when we remember this, when we remember that we are each a center of divine consciousness and that what we do has an effect on the world, we step into our power as spiritual beings here with spiritual business to transact on our physical plane. We're here to make a difference. And we have to start within. It all starts here. So Wabi-Sabi is similar to the work of Byron Katie. You may be familiar with that. Loving what is. And instead of loudly proclaiming that things should be this way, they should be different, they should be this way, they should be that way, instead of that, we take a breath and we find acceptance in the moment that this is what's happening. And we stop resisting it. And we begin to approach it with a willingness to see it differently. Katie asks, how do you know this is the way it should be? Because it's the way it is. That's her logic. And the key, though, is to stop fighting it, to take a breath and come to acceptance of the moment. Now, does that mean that we just have to roll over and say, nothing I can do to change this, or to give up? No. I want everybody, shake your head, no, wherever you are, I'm just imagining you're saying no. But ironically, we have to get to a place of acceptance of what is before we can even hope to change anything. It's about giving up being right for being love in action, for being the presence of compassion and peace. We have to give up being right to be the presence of peace. Araya Mountain Dreamer says it this way: having compassion does not mean indiscriminately accepting or going along with others' actions regardless of the consequences to ourselves or the world. It's about being able to say no where we need to without putting the other out of our hearts, without making the other less of a fellow human being. That really captures it. But she goes on to say there's a difference between discerning and sometimes even opposing harmful behavior and making the other wrong, less than we are, less of a part of that presence that is greater than ourselves in our own minds and hearts. And when I stop fighting with a situation, when I say yes to changing my perception, I call on a visionary power within me that lets me see it from a higher perspective. I now become open to the understanding that the world I am seeing through my limited senses is not the whole picture. I've heard it described as a holographic mirror. So imagine if what we're seeing played out for us right now in the world is a reflection of our collective cultural beliefs. Can you imagine that? And I can either run away from that and ignore it or deny it, or I can use the information as a valuable stepping stone to my own spiritual awakening. And that's when we find the gold. When we use what's being mirrored for us to look within. And without that willingness to see it differently, without the willingness to stay present and connected to what's arising with compassionate curiosity, I will just continue to rationalize my behavior, and I am masterful at doing that. But I will continue to do that. I'll continue trying to prove I'm right and that guy's wrong. It's not about me, it's about him. I'll use my words and my actions to defend my fragile ego, to protect my shadow, and to project my stuff onto the world. And I will stay lost in the reflection of duality. Do you see that? And I will continue to be a casualty rather than a contribution. Several of us have been studying the book Me and White Supremacy over the last 4 weeks. We have one other week to go. And if I'm being honest, the title alone was enough of a deterrent to keep me away from it at first. I had to take a breath. I had to step into the willingness to be shown something important for me to see. And that's why self-compassion is paramount. It's a key component of this work. Without it, the treasure will stay hidden while I continue to do these defensive postures. See? But what I've learned from that book and from a few others that I'm reading on the same topic is that awakening can be uncomfortable. I don't know if you found this, but it has been for me. And that I have to be willing to see how I have been complicit in upholding an unfair, racist system. But if I keep my eyes closed in denial, I can't change. There's no way. But if I continue to do that inner healing work of integration, then I can demonstrate that wholeness that I seek to manifest in the world. I bring my whole self to the holographic mirror, see? And I will keep getting closer and closer and closer to that gold within. The ability to transform the moment comes from within us. It just does. And the treasure is in our own backyard. The power of the moment to deal with whatever is arising with acceptance and willingness is the work. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do. Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen tells the story of a young man who struggled with this. And then he went on to demonstrate for me what it looks like to move from casualty to contribution. This young man had been a college athlete, and then he lost his right leg above the knee due to cancer. His dreams were shattered. He became bitterly angry. He left school. He turned to drugs and alcohol. He alienated most of his former friends, and he began hating people who were healthy and whole and well. And on his second visit to her, Dr. Remen asked him to draw a picture of what he thought of his body. And he drew an outline of a vase with a deep crack in it. And he went over and over, the crack. He went over and over that crack with a black crayon, gritting his teeth and ripping the paper. And after he left, she folded the picture up and saved it. And as time went on, his anger started to change. It started to shift as he began to pay attention to others who were suffering as he was. And he started visiting young people on the surgical wards whose problems were similar to his own. And he was often able to help when no one else could. He would sit and talk to the families and the friends and explain to them what was needed, try to help them understand what they were going through. And the surgeons actually started referring people to him. Gradually, his anger faded, and it just got channeled into a positive actions, and he developed a sort of ministry around it. Well, one day he came across a 21-year-old woman who had just gone through a double mastectomy as a preventative measure because her sister and her mother and her cousin had all died of breast cancer, and she had this done in a preventative way. And she was deeply, deeply depressed. And whenever he tried to visit her, she would keep her eyes closed.
see. You're,
Yourself. Oh, there we go.
There you are.
Thank you.
There you are.
Anyway, she closed her eyes and she wouldn't even look at him. And so one day, it was a hot day and he had on shorts, so his prosthetic leg was in full view. And when he walked in her room, there was a radio that was playing some rock music a little softly. So he stood up, he unstrapped the harness on his leg, and he let it drop on the floor with a bang, and her eyes flew open, and she saw him for the first time. And then he began to dance around the room on one leg, snapping his fingers and laughing. And after a moment, she burst out laughing, and she said, "Well, if you can dance, maybe I can sing." And so the two of them became friends, and together they began to visit people in the hospital. And eventually they were married. She became his wife. In his final meeting with Dr. Remen, they were reviewing how far he had come and the sticking points and the turning points. And she opened his chart and found the picture. And he took a look at it and he said, "Well, it's not finished yet." And so he took a yellow crayon and he began to draw yellow lines radiating outward from the crack. And finally he said, "The crack is where the light shines through." And so those cracks and scars are the places where the light shines through. It's where the gold can be found. And what we view as our flaws, the unacceptable, the unlovable, the parts of ourselves we want to push away or suppress or hide or project, they are the very places where we can unearth the deeper truth of who we are if we're willing to dig and find it. Because the sacred resides in the ordinary. The cracks are the way in. It's the portal to that deeper understanding of who we are. And when we look out at the world today, it's easy to be blinded by all the cracks and the scars. I mean, we might just kind of throw our hands up and ask whether there's any possibility it can be transformed at all. And the answer would be no. If we try to do it from the outside in, if we stay stuck in anger, resentment, us and them thinking, if we keep on arguing with the mirror, then we just keep those cracks in our focus and we don't see the value. But here's the thing. The principle of unity is grounded in the awareness that we are one in the Spirit. We are profoundly related. And that includes all people, regardless of whether that person agrees with me or not. Oneness doesn't offer us a not my problem card or a life is against me button. The interconnection of life is the reason why we do this work. It's the reason that I'm studying the books I'm studying and trying to make changes. The recently deceased congressman and civil rights icon, John Lewis, said, "Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble. Necessary trouble. Wabi-Sabi is good trouble. Compassionate curiosity, willingness to see it a different way, that's good trouble. And they're both necessary trouble. And when I say trouble, it's because they're uncomfortable, but they're necessary." So let me ask you this. Are you ready to pick up your shovel and dig in? Okay, so I'm imagining that you're thinking about it at least, because here's some more questions. Are you willing to find the untold hidden treasure that's just awaiting your discovery to allow life's imperfections to lead you to something greater? You see, your very essence is divine, and you are being guided. You're being carried, you're being lifted through every action you take, no matter what is showing up in your world, no matter how it appears in the outer. That is the truth, and it always has been the truth. So are you ready to commit to being a contribution rather than a casualty, to mine all the gold that awaits you by using compassionate communication as your navigation tool, and to stop fiddling while Rome is burning? Well, if the answer to those is yes, let's take a look at, see, I'm just asking if you can dig in there. Okay. If the answer is yes, then let's look at how that can happen. First of all, when the world throws something at you, take time to pause and remember the power of God that is within you. No matter what is happening in the outside world, what is within you is greater than anything you may be going through. So turn to that power. Allow the presence to guide you. Step into who you have come here to be and commit to being a contribution rather than a casualty. And in order to do that, we have to let go of our resistance to what is. And that doesn't mean becoming a doormat. It means releasing the need to fight and instead come to acceptance for what is while trusting that a higher power is at work in the situation. And without my resistance, that power can now flow. And then activate compassion, married with curiosity, as you ask your heart to guide you in actually seeing the gift, seeing the beauty, seeing the value in the imperfection. Sometimes that gift is very well wrapped. But remember that the cracks and the scars are the places where the light shines through. And so I invite you to try this practice and see what treasures you unearth, because the gold is right here in our backyard. And so it is.
All right, way to go. All right, I'll get that back. All right, so taking it to heart.
Take it.
So we had an experience on the way to church today.
We did.
We did, and it was horrifying.
It was.
It was just, it just shook us. It rocked us. We were driving from Kettle Falls here to Spokane to do the services, and we were about 3 or 4 miles outside of north of Chihuahua, and we passed an RV going, a little slower than the speed limit, and then right in front of the RV was a truck, and it was going like this. And so we were concerned that the person was intoxicated, and sort of it became even more apparent when he was weaving into the opposite lane and really threatening the well-being of all of us on the road. And he even went off the road, going 65 miles an hour off the road into a hayfield and made it back onto the road
Without missing
without missing a beat, not even slowing down. And until he came to Chihuahua, where the speed limit goes from 60 to 25 miles an hour, we figured something would happen by then. And by then, you decided that you were going to call and see if we couldn't get any support in that area. And as we got into Chihuahua, we saw the truck, and highway patrol person pulled in right behind him and pulled him over.
Yeah.
And it was such a relief to have that.
That he wouldn't, yeah.
The reason why I bring this up, because my reaction and your reaction was a little bit different. To be honest, I was really interested in the police getting this guy off the road, and you were really interested on this guy being okay and being safe. And to me, that is really the distinction between the work, is that are we going to let the outer experience cause us to react, or are we going to use the outer experience to remind us that we can make a contribution to the well-being in spite of the outer condition? It's still this person who's drunk at 7:30 in the morning. What would cause a person to have to deal with their life in that regard?
Yeah, I felt great compassion, but great fear that he was going to, hurt somebody. And so I had my phone out ready to do 911 and say, listen, you got to come. But then we saw that highway patrol, and it's like, okay, buddy, yay.
Yeah.
And he got him off before he did any damage.
Right. So the takeaway for me is really recognizing, or the reminder anyway, is that we have the capacity to really shift into a sense of powerlessness, a sense of victimization, a casualty, to being able to be with what's happening without feeling diminished, and being able to make a contribution that actually uses the experience to unfold what is seeking to be birthed. But we have to hospice the part of us that doesn't want to have anything to do with the moment that we're in.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment for us when we realize, oh, there's a scar for me to look at, and we have that, we have that moment where we can either push it away and make it about somebody else, or just stop and say, okay, I'm willing to see it in another way, but I need help.
Right.
Yeah, I need a greater vision here.
Right. And that's the benefit of this kind of community, these kinds of conversations, sharing transformative information that really helps us not just cope with what's happening, but overcome the discomforts associated with believing that we're powerless or out of control or not okay or unworthy. We can actually shift our inner state and show up and have a different outer experience manifest right before our very eyes.
Indeed we can.
Indeed we can. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. It's time now for us to acknowledge that we have both a spiritual body, Unity Spiritual Center, as well as a physical body and a spiritual body. Now we're talking about the physical needs of our organization. We continue to need everyone's effort to do what they can do in these times, not meeting on Sunday and not being able to participate in our offertory. But instead recognizing that as we connect up, as we feel connected, especially in a sense that we're all in this together, and this organization, this conversation matters to us all, and we need to sustain it during these times. So we're just going to know and trust that everyone is doing what they can do, and we want to now go ahead and affirm together our offertory blessing. And so let's go ahead and share this with everybody. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And so it is. All right, we want to remind everyone that following the service is our Zoom meet and greet. And just so you know that the link to the Zoom meet and greet is posted in our YouTube chat, as well as the link to our town hall meeting, which is a different link. It's also published in the chat, as well as it already being published in our e-newsletter on Wednesdays. And so if you're having difficulty accessing this, be sure and go on to our website and sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be included in all the conversations. All right, so Caleb, do we have a song from Sean and Tony next?
We sure will. Of course, they're 12 seconds behind us in time, so we'll kill just a minute here while they get situated.
All right.
It's always interesting to be on two different timelines here whenever we're streaming.
Daniel Namod song, Swing Wide the Doors, 2, 3. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand that what I'm here for, and what this life's all about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, lending a hand. So swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. There's a voice that I've heard for years. I've learned to keep it inside. Now it's coming in loud and clear. I want a deeper life. A life about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, lending a hand. So swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in all humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.